You know that moment when you realize you've been living a lie? When the people you've bent over backwards for, sacrificed for, and loved unconditionally show you exactly where you stand in their lives? That moment hit me like a freight train on a Tuesday morning in March, sitting in my kitchen with a cup of coffee that suddenly tasted like betrayal. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Nora. "Hey, finally finished the guest list for the wedding. So exciting." Followed by about 12 heart emojis. I smiled, genuinely happy for her. Nora had been planning this wedding for 8 months, and I'd been there for every single step. Every venue tour, every cake tasting, every dress fitting where she needed someone to hold her purse and tell her she looked beautiful. Can't wait to see it. I texted back, already imagining where I'd be seated, wondering if I'd get stuck at the kids' table or maybe next to Great Aunt Martha, who always smells like mothballs. What came next shattered my world in the most casual way possible. "Oh, about that. Mom didn't tell you? We had to make some cuts. The venue can only hold 150 people, and with David's huge family and all our college friends, you understand, right? It's nothing personal." I stared at that message for a full minute. Read it again. And again. The words weren't changing, but my entire understanding of my place in this family was crumbling with each reread. Nothing personal? I'm her brother, her only sibling. The person who drove 4 hours each way to help her move apartments. Twice. The one who lent her $3,000 when she was between jobs and never asked for it back. The guy who spent last Christmas Day assembling her boyfriend David's stupid exercise bike because he was too stressed about proposing. My hands were shaking as I called Mom. "Oh, honey," she said in that dismissive tone I'd learned to hate. "Don't make this into a big thing. It's just a wedding. You know how these things are with budgets and space. Just a wedding? Mom, it's Nora's wedding. I'm her brother." Well, she had to make difficult choices. David's family is very large, and you know how close they all are. Plus all their friends from college, and her sorority sisters. Each excuse felt like another knife. I wasn't asking to bring a date. I wasn't asking for a +1. I was asking to exist in my sister's most important day as her family. "How many people are invited, Mom?" Silence. "Mom, how many?" Well, I think around 150. 150 people made the cut. Co-workers she complained about daily. College friends she hadn't spoken to in years. David's third cousins from Nebraska who they'd met exactly once. But not me, not her brother who had been there through her parents' divorce, through her anxiety attacks, through every heartbreak and triumph. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I sat down and really looked at my relationship with my family, not through the rose-colored glasses of obligation and love, but with the harsh clarity of someone who'd finally woken up. I was the family's emotional support system, the one they called when they needed something fixed, when they needed money, when they needed a shoulder to cry on. But when it came to celebrating, to joy, to the moments that mattered, I was expendable. Nora's wedding was in 6 weeks. 6 weeks of watching from the sidelines as she posted about dress fittings and bachelor parties I'd never be invited to. 6 weeks of pretending this didn't cut me to my core. But as I sat there in my apartment that night, something shifted. A strange calm settled over me. For the first time in my 32 years, I wasn't going to be the understanding one. I wasn't going to make this easy for them. If they wanted me out of their big day, then I'd show them what out really looked like. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. While my coffee brewed, I opened my laptop and started browsing. Not job sites, not family-friendly vacation spots, not the practical destinations I usually research to death before booking. I was looking at luxury resorts in the Caribbean. The Meridian Resort in Barbados caught my eye first. Infinity pools overlooking crystal blue water. Private beach access. Spa treatments that cost more than most people's monthly car payments. The presidential suite with its own personal butler and panoramic ocean views. I'd been saving money for over 2 years. Originally, it was going to be a down payment on a house. Something practical. Something responsible. Something the old me would do. But the old me got invited to family weddings. I called the resort. The presidential suite was available for Nora's wedding week. 7 days and 6 nights of pure luxury while my family celebrated without me. The price made me wince for about 3 seconds before I pulled out my credit card. "I'd like to book the presidential suite for the 15th of March through the 22nd of March, I told the reservation agent. "Excellent choice, sir. That's our premium accommodation. Will this be for a special occasion?" "You could say that. It's my sister's wedding week." "How wonderful. Will you be bringing family photos to display?" "Many guests like to—" "No," I interrupted. "I won't be attending the wedding." There was a pause. "I see. Well, I'm sure you'll have a lovely stay regardless." After I hung up, I sat back and looked around my apartment. Everything was so carefully organized, so responsible. Photos of family trips where I was always the one behind the camera. Gifts from holidays where I'd spent twice my budget making sure everyone felt special. A life built around being indispensable to people who had just proven I was entirely dispensable. My phone rang. "Nora, hey, did you get my text yesterday? I felt so bad having to cut the guest list, but you totally understand, right? It's just so stressful, and David's mom is being really pushy about including all his relatives." She was using her sweet voice, the one she'd perfected as a child to get out of trouble. It used to work on me. Used to make me feel guilty for even being upset. "I understand perfectly," I said, and I meant it. I understood that I meant nothing to them. "Oh, good. I was worried you might be upset. You're usually so dramatic about family stuff." Dramatic. There was the word that had haunted my entire relationship with my family. Anytime I had feelings, anytime I expressed hurt or disappointment, I was being dramatic. "Actually, Nora, I wanted to let you know that I'll be out of town that week anyway. I'm going to Barbados. Barbados? Since when do you go to places like Barbados? That sounds expensive. It is expensive. Very expensive. But I figure since I'm not spending money on a wedding gift, bachelor party, or wedding attire, I can afford to treat myself. The silence on the other end was deafening. You're not getting me a wedding gift? Why would I get a gift for a wedding I'm not invited to? But you're still family. You don't have to be at the wedding to... Actually, Nora, I think I do. I think being family means you get invited to family weddings. But apparently, we have different definitions of family. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from hurt. It was from adrenaline. For the first time in my adult life, I had said exactly what I meant to my sister. 10 minutes later, Mom called. What is this I hear about you going to some tropical island during Nora's wedding? Are you trying to spite her? I'm trying to enjoy myself, Mom. Is that allowed? Don't be smart with me. This is your sister's wedding we're talking about. The most important day of her life. The most important day of her life that I'm not invited to. You're being ridiculous. There's no room. There's room for 150 people, Mom. David's college roommate made the cut. His neighbor's kids made the cut. His boss, who he hates, made the cut. But not me. That's different. Those people what? Matter more than I do? Because that's the message I'm getting loud and clear. Mom sighed dramatically. Fine, go to your tropical island. Throw your tantrum. But don't expect us to feel sorry for you when you realize what you've missed. I won't, I said. I absolutely won't. The weeks leading up to the wedding were the most peaceful I'd experienced in years. For the first time, I wasn't getting daily calls about wedding crises. No more texts asking me to pick up decorations or move furniture or solve some problem that David was too busy to handle. Instead, I was planning my own perfect week. I upgraded my flights to first class, booked spa treatments, made reservations at the resort's most exclusive restaurant, arranged for a private yacht excursion and a helicopter tour of the island. Every luxury I'd ever denied myself in favor of being the responsible one was now on my itinerary. The silence from my family was telling. No one called to try to fix things. No one suggested maybe finding room for one more person at the wedding. They'd made their choice, and now I was making mine. 3 days before the wedding, Nora's best friend Jessica reached out to me on Facebook. Hey, I heard you're not coming to Nora's wedding? That seems crazy. You two are so close. I stared at the message for a while before responding. Nora decided there wasn't room for me at the wedding. 150 guests, but her brother didn't make the cut. Jessica's response came quickly. Wait, what? That can't be right. There has to be some misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. She told me herself. Said it was nothing personal. But you're her brother, like her only sibling brother. That's insane. It was validating to hear someone else say what I'd been thinking. That yes, this was insane. That no, I wasn't being dramatic or unreasonable. Well, I'll be in Barbados that week anyway, so it all worked out. Barbados? Damn, good for you. That sounds amazing. That evening, I was packing when my phone rang. Dad. I almost didn't answer. Dad had been mostly silent through this whole situation, which was typical. He avoided family drama like it was radioactive. Son, he said when I picked up, your mother told me about this Caribbean trip. What about it? It just seems like. Maybe you're trying to make a point. The point is that I want to have a nice vacation. During your sister's wedding, my sister's wedding that I'm not invited to. Dad was quiet for a long time. Finally, I don't pretend to understand all the details of this wedding planning business. Your mother and Nora handled all that. But I know you're hurt. It was the closest thing to acknowledgement I'd gotten from anyone in my family. I am hurt, Dad. I'm really hurt. I know. And maybe they could have handled things differently. It wasn't an apology, but from Dad, it was practically a declaration of support. I just want you to think about whether this trip is going to make you feel better or worse in the long run. I think it's going to make me feel a lot better, Dad. All right then. Have a safe flight. After we hung up, I finished packing with a lightness I hadn't felt in months. My suitcase was full of new clothes, vacation clothes, nothing practical or sensible, bright colors and expensive fabrics. Clothes for a man who is finally putting himself first. The night before my flight, I got one last text from Nora. I really hope you'll reconsider this trip. It would mean a lot to have you there, even if you can't be AT the wedding. Even if I couldn't be AT the wedding. She wanted me nearby, available to help with any last-minute crises, but still not worthy of actually attending her special day. I turned off my phone without responding. The next morning, I was up at 4 a.m., not from nerves but from excitement. Real excitement. The kind I hadn't felt since I was a kid on Christmas morning. My Uber arrived exactly on time. As we drove through the empty streets toward the airport, I rolled down the window and breathed in the cool morning air. In 12 hours, I'd be breathing Caribbean air instead, with a drink in my hand and not a single wedding crisis to solve. At the airport, I checked in for my first-class seat and settled into the airline lounge with a proper breakfast and excellent coffee. For the first time in weeks, my phone wasn't buzzing with requests or demands or guilt trips, just peace. The flight to Barbados was everything I'd dreamed of. Real glassware, gourmet meals, a seat that reclined into a bed. I ordered champagne before we even took off, toasting my newfound freedom at 30,000 feet. The passenger next to me, an older woman named Margaret, struck up a conversation during the meal service. Business or pleasure? She asked, noticing my obvious good mood. Pleasure. Definitely pleasure. Wonderful. Special occasion? You could say that. My sister's getting married today. Margaret's face lit up. How exciting. And you're celebrating early in the Caribbean? Actually, I'm not going to the wedding. Her expression shifted to confusion, then concern. Oh my. Family dispute? I found myself telling her the whole story. How I'd been cut from the guest list, how my mother dismissed my hurt, how 150 people made the cut but not me. Margaret listened with growing horror. That's absolutely appalling, she said when I finished. I have 3 children, and I cannot imagine excluding one from such an important event. The guest list could have been 149 if necessary. That's what I thought. Well, she raised her glass. Here's to choosing yourself for once. And here's to their loss. Because you seem like delightful company. We clinked glasses somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Validation from a complete stranger who understood immediately what my own family couldn't grasp. The resort was even more spectacular than the photos. My suite had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, a private balcony with an infinity pool, and a bathroom bigger than most people's bedrooms. The butler, James, greeted me with genuine warmth and a welcome cocktail. Mr. Anderson, we're delighted to have you. I understand this is a very special week for you. It certainly is, James. It certainly is. After settling in, I changed into swim shorts and made my way to the private beach. The sand was impossibly white. The water a shade of blue I'd never seen in person. I claimed a premium lounger, ordered something tropical with too much alcohol, and pulled out my phone for the first time since boarding. 17 missed calls, 43 text messages. My first instinct was panic. What if something terrible had happened? What if there was an emergency? But as I scrolled through the messages, I realized they weren't emergency calls. They were wedding day panic calls. The flowers are wrong. Nora. 9:47 a.m. David's uncle is drunk already, and it's only 11. Mom, 11:15 a.m. The DJ isn't here yet. Nora. 11:52 a.m. Can you call the caterers? They're missing 3 trays. Mom, 12:30 p.m. Where are you? Nora. 1:15 p.m. Message after message of people expecting me to solve problems for a wedding I wasn't invited to attend. The audacity was breathtaking. I took a screenshot of my ocean view, added the caption, "Currently unavailable for wedding emergencies," and posted it to my Instagram story. Then I turned my phone to airplane mode and ordered another drink. The afternoon stretched out in perfect luxury. I swam in water so clear I could see my feet on the bottom. I had a massage that cost more than most people's monthly phone bill. I ate fresh seafood and tropical fruit and drank wine that probably cost more per bottle than my usual weekly grocery budget. And through it all, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Complete peace. No one needed me to fix anything. No one was disappointed in me. No one was making me feel guilty for existing or dramatic for having feelings. At sunset, I sat on my private balcony with a glass of champagne, watching the sky turn impossible shades of pink and orange. Somewhere, thousands of miles away, my sister was having her first dance with her new husband, surrounded by 150 people who mattered more to her than I did. And you know what? I didn't feel sad anymore. I felt free. The next morning, I woke up naturally for the first time in months. No alarm, no anxiety, just the gentle sound of waves and tropical birds. I ordered room service, fresh fruit, perfect coffee, pastries that were probably made by someone who actually cared about their craft. James knocked softly and entered with my breakfast and a conspiratorial smile. "Good morning, Mr. Anderson. I trust you slept well?" "Like a baby, James. Like a baby. Excellent. I have your helicopter tour scheduled for this afternoon, and the yacht excursion tomorrow. But first, I thought you might enjoy this." He handed me a tablet with local news pulled up. Apparently, there had been a minor celebrity wedding at a resort on the other side of the island that had gone spectacularly wrong. The bride's dress had caught fire from a candle, the groom had gotten food poisoning, and 3 guests had been arrested for fighting. I thought you might appreciate that someone else's wedding went worse than, well, whatever wedding you're avoiding. I laughed harder than I had in months. "James, you're a treasure." After breakfast, I finally turned my phone back on. The message count had somehow doubled overnight. The wedding was a disaster. Mom, 9:47 p.m. David walked out during the reception. Jessica, 10:23 p.m. Nora is hysterical. Mom, 10:45 p.m. Call me immediately. Mom, 11:30 p.m. This is all your fault somehow. Mom, 12:15 a.m. I scrolled through the messages with growing fascination. Apparently, the wedding had been cursed from the start. The flowers were delivered in the wrong colors. The DJ played explicit music during the ceremony processional. 2 of David's groomsmen got into a fistfight during cocktail hour, but the real drama had started during the reception. According to multiple sources, Grandma Helen, Point Father's mother, who I adored and who had apparently been relegated to the overflow table despite being 87 years old, had stood up during the toasts and delivered some kind of epic speech. I called Jessica back, curious despite myself. "Oh my God, you missed the most incredible disaster," she said immediately upon answering. "I heard David walked out? That was just the finale. The whole thing was cursed. But your grandmother was magnificent. What did she do?" She stood up right after David's best man gave his toast, and she said, "I have something to say about family." And then she just went oaf. My heart started pounding. Grandma Helen was usually the epitome of grace and Southern manners. What did she say? She said that in her 87 years, she'd never seen such disrespect to family, and that any bride who would exclude her own brother from her wedding was setting herself up for a marriage built on the wrong foundation. She said Nora had forgotten where she came from and who had always been there for her. I felt tears prick my eyes. Grandma Helen had stood up for me. Then what happened? Nora started crying and tried to interrupt, but your grandmother wasn't done. She said that she was ashamed to see how her granddaughter treated family, and that she hoped Nora would learn the value of loyalty before it was too late. Then she gathered up her purse and walked out. Grandma left? She left, and about half the family followed her. Your Aunt Sarah, your cousins, even some of David's family looked uncomfortable. The whole energy shifted. I was quiet, processing this. That's when David started drinking heavily, Jessica continued. Like, really heavily. And during the father-daughter dance, he got into some argument with Nora about something, and then he just left. Like, got in his car and drove away from his own wedding reception. He left, gone. Nora spent the rest of the night calling him while your mom tried to salvage the party, but most people had already started leaving after your grandmother's speech. It was the most dramatic wedding disaster I've ever witnessed. After I hung up, I sat on my balcony trying to process everything. Part of me felt vindicated. Maybe they were finally understanding what they'd done. But another part of me just felt sad for everyone involved. My phone rang again. Grandma Helen. Sweetheart, she said in her warm voice. I hope you're having a wonderful time on your vacation. Grandma, I heard what you did at the wedding. Well, someone needed to say it. I didn't raise my children to treat family like strangers. And I certainly didn't raise my grandchildren to be so thoughtless. I love you so much. I love you too, baby. And I'm proud of you for choosing to do something nice for yourself instead of sitting around feeling sorry. Sometimes the best response to being excluded is to show them what they're missing. Word of my Caribbean paradise apparently spread through the family network like wildfire. By day 3, I was getting calls from relatives I hadn't heard from in months, all wanting to hear my side of the wedding story. My cousin Rachel called while I was floating in my private pool with a drink that was definitely too strong for noon. Dude, she said without preamble. Mom told me what happened with Nora's wedding. Are you seriously in Barbados right now? I'm seriously in Barbados right now. Living your best life while they deal with the fallout? I'm living my best life regardless of any fallout. But yes, that's amazing. I mean, the wedding sounds like it was a complete shit show anyway. David still hasn't come home. That caught my attention. What do you mean he hasn't come home? Apparently, he drove straight to his buddy's house after leaving the reception and has been there for 3 days. Won't answer Nora's calls, won't talk to anyone. There are rumors he's having second thoughts about the whole marriage. I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Satisfaction that their perfect day had imploded, but also genuine concern for Nora, despite everything. How is she handling it? About as well as you'd expect. Mom says she's been crying nonstop and keeps asking why everything went wrong. Apparently, she's convinced it's because you put some kind of curse on the wedding by not being there. She thinks I cursed her wedding? That's what I heard. Like your absence created some kind of bad energy that ruined everything. I almost laughed. The idea that my presence was so essential that its absence could cause a supernatural disaster was ironic, considering they'd found me so unessential to invite in the first place. Well, I said, taking another sip of my cocktail, maybe next time she'll consider the consequences of excluding family. After Rachel hung up, I tried to feel guilty about Nora's situation. I really did. But sitting there in paradise, with no responsibilities and no one else's problems to solve, I mostly just felt relief that I wasn't there to be expected to fix everything. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is David. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time. David, who had never once reached out to me directly in the 3 years he'd been dating my sister. David, who had made it clear through his actions and attitude that he didn't consider me worth his time or attention. I typed and deleted several responses before settling on, I'm out of the country. I know. Look, I know this is weird, but I need to talk to someone who isn't completely wrapped up in all this family drama. The irony was staggering. The man who had just married into my family was asking me to be his neutral party because I wasn't wrapped up in family drama, presumably because his new wife had made sure I wasn't included enough to be wrapped up in anything. Against my better judgment, I called him. Thanks, he said immediately upon answering. I wasn't sure you'd call back. What's going on, David? Everything's fucked up, man. The wedding was a disaster. Nora's family is imploding, and I'm starting to think maybe I made a huge mistake. About getting married? About everything. The way we handled the wedding, the guest list, all of it. Your grandmother said some things that really hit home. I waited for him to continue. She said that how we treat family shows who we really are. And she was right. We treated you like shit, didn't we? It was the first direct acknowledgement I'd gotten from anyone about what had actually happened. Yeah, I said. You did. Nora kept saying it was just about numbers, about space, about money. But we found room for my college roommate who I talked to maybe twice a year. We invited my boss who I complain about constantly. We invited neighbors we barely know. But not her brother. But not her brother, he repeated quietly. And now everything's falling apart. And I can't help thinking maybe this is karma or something. David, I didn't put a curse on your wedding. I know that. But maybe. Maybe when you exclude the people who actually love you in favor of the people you think you should impress. Maybe that creates its own kind of curse. David's call left me with mixed feelings. On one hand, it was validating to finally hear someone acknowledge what they'd done. On the other hand, I couldn't help but notice he was only reaching out now that his perfect wedding had turned into a nightmare. I decided not to dwell on it. Instead, I spent the afternoon on my scheduled yacht excursion. 3 hours of sailing around the island, snorkeling in waters so clear they looked like liquid glass, and enjoying a gourmet lunch prepared by the boat's private chef. The captain, a local man named Marcus who'd been sailing these waters for 30 years, was excellent company. You seem like a man who's figured something out, he said as we anchored in a secluded cove. What makes you say that? Most people who come here are running from something. But you seem like you're running to something. Maybe both, I said, diving off the back of the boat into the perfect blue water. When I surfaced, Marcus was grinning. Both is good. Both means you're making choices instead of just reacting. That evening, I decided to check in with the outside world again, My Instagram post from the yacht had gotten more attention than anything I'd ever posted. Friends from high school were commenting with envy. Coworkers were asking how I could afford such luxury. Even acquaintances were reaching out to say the trip looked amazing. But the family messages had taken on a different tone. David wants to call off the marriage. This is all your fault, Mom. 2:30 p.m. Nora needs you. Please come home. Dad, 3:45 p.m. Everyone is asking where you are. This is embarrassing. Mom, 4:15 p.m. And then, finally, a message from Nora herself. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But please don't let my marriage fall apart because you're angry at me. David is talking about annulment and I don't know what to do. I need my big brother. I read that message 3 times, feeling the familiar tug of guilt and responsibility. The old me would have been on the next flight home, ready to fix everything and make it all better. But the old me didn't get invited to his sister's wedding. I poured myself a glass of the excellent wine I'd been saving and sat on my balcony to think. Down on the beach, I could see couples taking romantic walks, families playing in the surf, groups of friends laughing over drinks, all of them looking genuinely happy, genuinely present in their own lives. When was the last time I'd been genuinely present in my own life instead of managing everyone else's? I called Nora back. Thank God, she said immediately. I've been going crazy trying to reach you. I got your message. I'm so sorry about the wedding invitation. You have to believe me. It wasn't personal. We just had so many people to consider, and the venue was so small. And, Nora, I interrupted. Stop. Stop what? Stop making excuses. You made a choice. You chose to invite 150 other people instead of your brother. You chose to hurt me rather than hurt David's third cousin from Nebraska. You made that choice, and now you're dealing with the consequences. But I need you to come home and help me fix things with David. And there it was, the real reason for her call. Not because she missed me at her wedding, not because she realized she'd made a mistake, but because she needed me to clean up her mess. Why would David listen to me? According to your guest list, I'm not important enough to matter. That's not. You're twisting this around. I'm not twisting anything. I'm just pointing out the contradiction. Either I'm important enough to be included in your life, or I'm not. You can't have it both ways. Please, she said, and I could hear her starting to cry. Please don't let me lose my marriage because of this. Nora, I didn't cause any problems in your marriage. David left your reception because he was unhappy about something that had nothing to do with me. If he's reconsidering marrying you, that's between you and him. But he said, whatever he said, it's not my responsibility to fix. I'm not your personal relationship counselor anymore. The silence stretched between us. Finally, she whispered, what happened to you? You used to always be there for me. I used to be invited to your life. After hanging up with Nora, I felt emotionally drained but also strangely liberated. For the first time in our relationship, I had set a clear boundary and stuck to it. I wasn't rushing home to fix her problems or manage her emotions. I was staying in paradise, taking care of myself. The next morning brought a surprise visitor to my resort suite. James knocked and entered with his usual discretion, followed by someone I wasn't expecting. Sir, there's a young lady here to see you. She says she's family. My cousin Emma stood in my doorway, grinning widely and looking like she'd just stepped off a magazine cover despite what must have been at least 12 hours of travel. Surprise, she said, opening her arms for a hug. Emma, what the hell are you doing here? Well, I heard my favorite cousin was living it up in the Caribbean while the family imploded back home, and I thought, why should you have all the fun? I hugged her, genuinely happy to see a friendly face. Please tell me you didn't come here to guilt trip me into going home. Are you kidding? I came here to congratulate you. What you did was brilliant. Emma had always been my favorite relative. 3 years younger than me, she'd inherited all of Grandma Helen's sass and none of our family's tendency toward guilt and manipulation. I booked myself a room downstairs, she said, settling into one of my suite's comfortable chairs. I hope you don't mind the company. I don't mind at all. But how did you even know where I was staying? Mom mentioned you were in Barbados, and there are only so many luxury resorts on the island. I called 3 places before I found the right one. And you just flew here? I had vacation days saved up, and honestly, watching everyone lose their minds over this wedding drama was getting exhausting. I figured joining you in paradise was a much better use of my time. We spent the day catching up by the pool. Emma filled me in on all the family gossip I'd missed while maintaining my communication blackout. David finally came home yesterday, she told me over lunch. But apparently, he's been sleeping in the guest room and they're going to counseling. Counseling already? They've been married for 4 days, right? But here's the best part. The counselor apparently asked them to make a list of their priorities and values as a couple, and David wrote family loyalty as his #1 value. I nearly choked on my drink. Seriously? Seriously. Which led to a big fight about the wedding guest list, and now Nora's finally admitting that maybe she made some mistakes. A little late for that. Maybe. But Aunt Sarah said Nora's been asking everyone for your phone number so she can apologize properly. Not just the sorry you're upset kind of apology, but a real one. I felt conflicted again. Part of me wanted that apology, wanted acknowledgement of how deeply they'd hurt me. But another part of me was enjoying the peace of not being at the center of their drama. Have you talked to Mom recently? I asked. Emma's expression darkened. Yeah, and she's not handling this well. She's alternating between being furious at you for abandoning the family and being furious at Nora for causing all this drama. But she won't admit that maybe she should have supported you from the beginning. That sounds about right. The thing is, I think she knows she was wrong, but her pride won't let her admit it. So she's doubling down on being angry instead of dealing with her guilt. That evening, Emma and I had dinner at the resort's most exclusive restaurant. We dressed up, ordered wine that cost more per bottle than I used to spend on groceries in a month, and talked about everything except the family drama. It was the most relaxed I'd felt since arriving. Having someone there who understood the situation but wasn't trying to fix it or change my mind was exactly what I needed. You know what I love about this? Emma said as we watched the sunset from the restaurant's terrace. What? You're not checking your phone every 5 minutes. You're not stressed about who needs what. You're just here, present. I haven't seen you like this in years. She was right. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't managing anyone else's emotions or solving anyone else's problems. I was just existing in my own space, making my own choices. It feels weird, I admitted. Like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe the other shoe already dropped. Maybe this is what happens when you stop catching everyone else's shoes. The next morning, I made a decision that would have seemed impossible a week ago. I called the resort's concierge and extended my stay by another week. Certainly, Mr. Anderson, the concierge said smoothly. I'll arrange for your suite to be held, and James will continue as your personal butler. Shall I also extend any of your scheduled activities? Actually, I'd like to book the private island excursion for tomorrow and see what else you have available for next week. Excellent choice. The private island experience is quite special, a full day on our exclusive quay with a personal chef in complete privacy. After hanging up, I felt a familiar twinge of guilt. I was supposed to be back at work in 3 days. I was supposed to resume my normal, responsible life. But what was waiting for me at home? A family that had made it clear I was expendable. A job where I was competent but not passionate. A routine built around everyone else's needs and expectations. I called my boss, Sarah, and was honest about the situation. I need to extend my vacation by a week, I told her. I know it's short notice, and I know it's not ideal, but I need this time. Is everything okay? This isn't like you. That's exactly the problem. It's not like me to put myself first, and I think it's time I started. Sarah was quiet for a moment. You know what? You've been here for 6 years and you've never taken more than a long weekend. You've covered for everyone, worked overtime without complaint, and frankly, you're one of our most reliable employees. Take the week. We'll manage. The relief I felt was overwhelming. For once, doing something for myself hadn't resulted in catastrophe or guilt trips or people telling me I was being selfish. Emma decided to extend her stay too, and we spent the day planning our additional week of paradise. Spa treatments, island hopping, scuba diving, and absolutely no family phone calls. That afternoon, while Emma was getting a massage, I finally listened to all the voicemails that had been accumulating on my phone. Honey, this has gone on long enough. Come home and help us fix this mess. Mom, day 4. Your sister is falling apart. Whatever point you were trying to make, you've made it. Dad, day 5. David's threatening to move out. Nora needs you. Mom, day 5. I don't understand why you're being so stubborn about this. Mom, day 6. But the last message was different. It was from Grandma Helen, and her voice was warm but firm. Sweetheart, I want you to know that I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for demanding the respect you deserve. Your family will figure out their problems eventually, but that's not your responsibility. Enjoy your vacation, and don't come home until you're ready. Love you. I saved that message and deleted all the others. That evening, Emma and I were having drinks on my balcony when my phone rang. Nora again. This time, I answered on speaker so Emma could hear. Please don't hang up, Nora said immediately. I'm listening. I've been in counseling with David, and I'm starting to understand how badly I messed up. Not just with the wedding, but with everything. With how I've treated you for years. This was different from her previous calls. Her voice was calmer, less frantic. Go on. The counselor asked us to trace back when our problems started, and David said it was when he realized that excluding you from the wedding made him feel sick to his stomach. He said he knew it was wrong, but he went along with it because I was so insistent. I looked at Emma, who was listening intently, and I was insistent because I was jealous. Jealous of what? Of how much everyone loves you, of how you're the one everyone calls when they need help, of how Dad's face lights up when you call, of how Grandma Helen talks about you like you hung the moon. This was not what I'd expected to hear. So instead of being proud to have you as my brother, I pushed you away, and I told myself it was about venue space and budgets, but really, I was tired of feeling like the less important sibling. Emma was shaking her head in disbelief. Nora, I said carefully, that's a lot to unpack. I know. And I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me or to get you to come home. I'm telling you because you deserve to know the truth. And because I'm sorry. Really. Genuinely sorry for hurting you. For the first time since this whole mess started, Nora sounded like she actually understood what she'd done wrong. Thank you for saying that. Are you ever going to forgive me? I looked out at the ocean, then at Emma, who gave me an encouraging nod. Maybe. But things are going to have to be different between us. Different how? I'm not going to be your emergency contact for every crisis anymore. I'm not going to drop everything to fix your problems. And I'm definitely not going to pretend that excluding me from your wedding was anything other than deeply hurtful. I understand. And David wants to talk to you too, when you're ready. He feels terrible about going along with everything. I'll think about it. After we hung up, Emma and I sat in comfortable silence for a while. That sounded like a real apology, she said finally. It did. But I'm still not ready to go home and jump back into fixing everyone's problems. Good, you shouldn't be. Let them figure out their own mess for a while. My last day in paradise arrived too soon, but I was surprised to find that I was actually ready to go home. Not because I felt guilty or pressured, but because I felt complete. The private island excursion had been the perfect final adventure. A day on a secluded beach with crystal clear water, gourmet food, and absolute solitude. I'd spent hours just sitting on the sand, thinking about what I wanted my life to look like going forward. Emma and I had our final dinner at the resort's beachside restaurant, our feet in the sand and the ocean waves providing the soundtrack. "So what's the plan when you get back?" she asked. "Honestly, I don't know yet, but I know what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to immediately jump back into being everyone's problem solver." "Good. What else?" "I'm going to keep some of this peace I found here. I'm going to say no to things that don't serve me, and I'm going to remember that my worth isn't measured by how indispensable I make myself to other people." Emma raised her glass. "To the new you. To the real me," I corrected. I think this was always who I was underneath all the people-pleasing. The flight home was bittersweet. I'd upgraded to first class for the return trip too, and I spent the time looking through photos from the trip and reflecting on how much had changed in 2 weeks. I had 17 missed calls when I landed, but I didn't check them right away. Instead, I went home, unpacked slowly, and ordered takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant. When I finally listened to my messages, most were from family members wanting to know when I was coming home and whether I was ready to put this all behind us. But there was one that stood out. It was from David. "Hey, I know you're probably not ready to talk to me, and I don't blame you, but I wanted you to know that your sister and I are working on things, and part of that work involves both of us taking responsibility for how we treated you. I'm planning to call you when you get back, not to ask for anything, but to apologize properly. I hope you'll give me that chance." That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I sat on my couch with a glass of wine and just existed. No phone calls to return, no problems to solve, no guilt about not being available to fix someone else's crisis. My phone rang around 8. "Nora, are you home?" she asked. "I'm home. How was your trip?" It was exactly what I needed. "I'm glad, I really am. And I know you probably don't want to see me right now, but I was hoping maybe we could talk sometime. In person. When you're ready. I might be ready for that soon. But Nora, things have to be different. I know. I want them to be different. I want to be a better sister." "Okay, we'll see." After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't experienced in our relationship before. Cautious hope. Not the desperate hope that things would go back to how they were, but hope that maybe they could become something better. A few days later, Grandma Helen called. "Welcome home, sweetheart. How was paradise?" "It was perfect, Grandma. Thank you for what you said at the wedding. Someone needed to say it, and I'm proud of you for following through. Sometimes the only way to teach people how to treat you is to show them what happens when they don't. I think they're starting to understand that." "Good. But don't you go making it easy on them too quickly. Let them work for your forgiveness." "I will, Grandma. I promise." 3 months later, I'm writing this from my apartment, the same apartment, but somehow everything feels different. Nora and I have had several long conversations, and while we're still rebuilding trust, she's been making genuine efforts to include me in her life and to respect my boundaries. David did call to apologize, and while I'm not sure we'll ever be close, I respect that he owned his part in what happened. Mom is still struggling with the idea that she was wrong, but she's been making small efforts to show that she values me. It's not enough yet, but it's something. And me? I kept that sense of peace I found in Barbados. I still help my family when they need it, but I don't drop everything to solve their problems. I've learned to say no without feeling guilty. I've learned that my worth isn't tied to how much I sacrifice for other people. Last week, Nora called to invite me to David's birthday party. A small gathering, nothing fancy, but she wanted to make sure I knew I was invited. She wanted to make sure I knew I mattered. I said yes, but I also booked myself a weekend trip to the mountains the following week. Just because I wanted to. Just because I could. Because I learned something important on that beach in Barbados. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't love people who don't value you without losing yourself in the process. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your family is to show them what life looks like without you in it. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to accept being treated poorly. And sometimes, the person who needs you most is yourself. I don't regret missing that wedding. Not for a single second. Because in missing it, I found something much more valuable. My own worth, my own voice, and my own power to choose how I want to be treated. The Caribbean taught me that paradise isn't a place, it's a state of mind where you put yourself first for once, where you recognize your own value, and where you refuse to be anyone's afterthought. And you know what? I'm never going back to being an afterthought again.